This episode of Hot Buttered Steve is brought to you by You're the Fire, because no fire is as exciting as the one within you. Go ahead, light it.
For thousands of years, the one way to burn incense was with fire. Now there's a new way. You're the fire. You're the fire. Skin incense from Yardley. Stroke it on freely as if it were cologne. The heat of your body, not the heat of a flame, releases the scent. Subtle, sensitive, like when you burn incense, but a lot more exciting. Because no fire's as exciting as the one within you. Go ahead, light it. You're the fire. Skin incense from Yardley.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Yeah! What's going on? Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. So glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Anybody listen to Emerson, Lake and Palmer? Anybody in their 50s? You young whippersnappers with your TikTok and your cell phones being glued to it. All right, let's see how my audio is. It's working great. I actually used 2 computers and I'm prepared. Well, this is really freaking weird. I don't like doing this by myself. I like working as a team because then other people get to do all the talking and I just sit back and get drunk and then chime in with a joke or ask some serious questions in like half an hour or so. I actually tried to make this where I'm broadcasting because I'm trying to be annoying, but I was like, I don't want to just flame and waste people's time. I'm going to put on a show, do something entertaining for them. So I actually, like, this was so hastily done. Like, I wrote up in 20 minutes a whole bunch of notes because, like, otherwise my stream of consciousness would just be everywhere. Holy smokes, we got 16 people. Dang, that's all right. It's not like anxiety level yet. If I had like 50 people on, I would just like be freaking. Hey, I can cuss on this show. I'd just be freaking the fuck out. Especially after I like broke the internet today. Like I have PPG friends that Photoshop me. They run me through AI generators and then they send them to me. And they're hilarious. And I got one this morning. I put it up on the Facebook group and it's got like 400 likes. And I'm getting hit on by guys in France and whatnot. And it's kind of sad. It's like, man, if I was a woman, I'd be beautiful. Like, and just well loved. It's crazy. This might be hard for me to keep up with the chat by myself and still entertain you guys at the same time, but I will try to spot questions and acknowledge you, and I'm just trying to do the best I can. If you're new here and don't know who I am or just seen my name but don't know my shtick, I go by Hot Butter Steve. I'm Steve Minty on Facebook. I've been flying regularly for about 1.5 years, but trained April 2020. I had a horrible experience with my first trainer. I went home, kited for 4.5 months, so I still worked, and then linked up with a great trainer, a great community. And then after that, it just turned into this, I went to EFT in 2021. Sorry, did I train 2021? Yeah, it was 2021. This past year, I spent 11 weeks on the road, and I like flew a whole mess of the country, from Salton Sea to Florida, Oshkosh, crowds at balloon festivals, and all sorts of stuff. But I've only got maybe a little less than 80 flights. Skill wise, I can do some spot landings, foot drags. I can get maybe a quarter of my wing past the horizon. I still fly a B wing, and just got a new one. Pretty excited for it. It's in Nirvana colors. Yeah. Speaking of looking good. Oh man, if I leave this here, would everybody just quit? This is a disaster. But within that time, when I first started PBG, I was afraid to talk to people. I was like, who am I to want to do this? I didn't realize how accessible it was and how nice people really are. And I mean, it's so easy to make friends and have a good time, but I didn't know that. And for a long time, I was just monitoring the community. And this was back when it was in just much rougher shape. People were just always fighting all the time, and just a hot mess of stuff going on. And it just drove me nuts for a while. I'm like, man, am I really going to be a solo flyer? And when I started doing it, I kept an open mind, and I put my own like weirdness into it. Like, I didn't want to fight with people. If there was something somebody said that made me upset, I wanted to think with some wit and whatnot, and try to be funny. And it worked out towards my benefit, because essentially I was able to travel the country, meet a bunch of people. People recognize me because I run my mouth, and I've got a YouTube channel. It's only got like 350 subscribers, so it's not really a big deal. People recognize me. I've made a lot of friends and just had a lot of time. And I'm broadcasting this tonight not because I want to like sit here and preach and say I'm an expert at something. I'm here to annoy people. Essentially, there's a Tuesday live show that goes on every single Tuesday, and two of the guys that run that show have been harassing the crap out of the Lears and Jade Lear, who do a Wednesday show that started off as promoting women in paramotoring. They've been just kind of bullying them for 6 months. And last week I was like, you know what? Why don't we do a test broadcast? Same time they are, just to annoy them. I mean, it was under the guise that we were like doing a test of a chat filter to get all the adult dating websites and spam off. But I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It was my idea, and I was totally trying to troll. And they since then reacted to that, which I'll get into later. But I was like, screw it. I'm going to do one tonight just to annoy them even more if they're going to act like babies. But I thought, instead of just like flaming over chicken shit, I would actually try to present something that people might actually appreciate. Just in terms of what I know with the deep connections I know in the paramotoring group in the very short time I've been doing it. It's not like I know much. The thing is I'm kind of doing this because I'm one of few extroverted people that will actually just put myself out there and share. There's a lot of amazing, smart people that should be doing this, like super smart. And it's our job, like my job, to kind of point those out and encourage them like, no, the culture's changing. You guys got to get back into the forefront and teach us and show us the ways and show us the errors of the past. But everybody's kind of gone hidden. And so then you're stuck with me, some guy that calls himself Hot Butter Steve with a dodgy freaking beard. And so that's where we're at. So I'm going to occasionally like look to the side of my notes, and then I'm going to occasionally try to look at the chat to see if anybody's trying to get my attention. If I sent you a link and you want to help me out, feel free to hop on, because this is a pain in the butt to do solo. Oh, so I wanted to annoy people, but I wanted to kind of make this legit. And I don't want to like sit here and talk about flying tips because I've got nothing to share that somebody else can't share better. My strength as a beginner is I can really share my experience in the moment so other people can relate to it. It's one thing when you're a beginner and you're listening to the pros that make it sound easy. And when you're trying to do a bunch of stuff in the moment, it's not going to necessarily click. But when you talk to a guy that was a struggling beginner at one point, or maybe facing different challenges, it's a little easier to talk to him because you got somebody to relate to. Like, man, this guy's super anxious and this is what he's struggling with. This is what he sucks with. And so that's been my sort of strength with that. The other thing is I like to fancy myself as a paramotor sociologist. Like, I stalked everybody when I started this. I wanted to like know who everybody was and just dig deep down because there was so much weird shit. Like, if you start looking into paramotors, which most of the time you're going to find it on YouTube. That's what it is now is YouTube, because you had people years ago that just normalized it. You know, gonna go fly to McDonald's, gonna go have fun with my friends, and it went from becoming this crazy concept to you can do it safely and not break your legs, not get killed. And then you just had an explosion of people doing this. So, man, I'm already losing my train of thought. I stalked everybody and I found a lot of weird stuff. If you're on YouTube looking at paramotors, you're going to run across Superdell like right away. And I remember my first impression, like, you don't know right off the bat not to take them seriously. So for like, maybe it took me 45 minutes, but I'm looking at a guy that's like, this is a death trap and all this other stuff you need to learn from me. You take them seriously for a second, but then you learn otherwise. But the real secret is like, Dell's not one of the worst ones. Like, if you go train with him, he's going to teach you how to kite a lot. You're going to be able to fly. You might learn how to fly in beach conditions and really struggle when you go at home in no wind conditions because you didn't get to practice those launches, which makes everything way harder. I mean, reverse kiting is a non-issue. If you struggle with it, you'll eventually get it. It's just a matter of time. But no wind can really drive people nuts, and it can kind of scare them, cause me a lot of anxiety starting out. But I looked at all these people, not just YouTubers. I was in Facebook and looking at people, and I mean, people would just fight over no reason, bringing all sorts of non-relevant topics into it. And I was just like, what the heck is this hot mess? And I started at a time where across the country, we were in a bad state. Everybody was fighting. So community-wise, it really wasn't a good time to start. And it just drove me nuts. But I'm really a type of person where I always try to keep an open mind and really try to understand somebody. I try not to be very reactive. If somebody does or says something that just doesn't jive with me, like, I try to understand them first. The only times I'm not really an angry person, but if I ever do get mad and go on a train wreck, it's usually due to corruption. Like I see something month after month, year after year of somebody just taking advantage of weaker people. Then I'm going to react in a certain way, but I'm not going to just get offended right off the bat. So I had an opportunity to listen and realize that my preconceptions, I'm glad I didn't listen to them, because the people in this community that initially I thought, man, I can't stand this person, no way. Those same people will ride my truck and go take a flight with me and be good friends. And people that didn't like my sense of humor or where I was coming from, I'd meet them, and within about 5-10 minutes, like, we'd be good friends to this day. So I'm really glad I took that attitude. It paid off really big. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be getting drunk on this show, aren't I? It just burnt my tongue. How many people were we watching? 17. So I really wanted to learn about the history and the people and various businesses, because I mean, there's just so much crap out there, and the more I dug and just stalked in the history, because I'm a total stalker, just found a bunch of weird stuff too. And it's just because we all come from different walks of life. You have your motorheads. You have people with money. You have engineer type people, software engineers. And it's crazy. A lot of like the super, what you would consider nerdy or dorky people, like they tend to be some of the best flyers compared to someone that's like a little more jacked up and whatnot. But I found so much weirdness, and I'm like, I'm just gonna be weird myself. And it worked out. I was right. Everybody else is weird. And then when I go places and I talk to people, it's like, man, I'm the normal one around here. What the heck? No wonder I'm accepted. It's a freaking weird deal, and we're a very weird community. Is anybody saying anything in the chat I need to respond to? Yeah, no, I'm not going to pause. So within that, when I started really actively flying and going to all sorts of fly-ins and meeting people, I developed relationships with schools too. And just chiming in and being ear on the wall and noticing their relationships and business interests. And I mean, just paid attention. If I wasn't flying, I was paying attention to everything on the ground. And it doesn't make me the smartest man around. I don't know everything, but I don't know. I just tried to take it all in. And people, I'm sort of a people person. I kind of hate people, and I kind of hate how awful they can be. But PPG people, we start this for different reasons, and our brains tend to be wired in a weird way where when we get together, a lot of our differences and stuff kind of go away, and we just mesh. Like, yeah, we fly, but we could spend like 5 days not flying together, still have a good time and be good friends. It's sort of, we've got this commonality, like we're at war with the sky, and we got to bond and stand together. So the psychology and sociology of it has always kind of fascinated me. So I wanted to get into, I post all the time, and I'll have like these, when I have like an amazing adventure, I'll come back and I'll share that with really beautiful words of like how much I loved it, how much it meant to me, how much my friends meant to me. And, life's not all puppy dogs and fairy tales. And this could be a fleeting moment. Maybe in 2 years, I'm ostracized or I piss off a lot of people. It's just the moment I need to enjoy now. And I kind of wanted to get into, instead of just being very floored with it, let's just talk about reality and the things I kind of hate about it and how I wish it would kind of improve, which I think it is. I think a lot of stuff in the community is growing and improving, and we're getting along way better. But nobody openly really talks about certain things that are going, or certain perspectives of people coming into the sport have, and just putting yourself in someone else's shoes. So let's just get into like the worst one. This is like my worst pet peeve. Like when I'm online and I'm not going to like troll people when I see it, but it just drives me nuts, is religion and politics. And politics is the absolute worst, because then it turns from, you have like this unifying thing that we do to, are you a liberal or conservative? And it's freaking stupid. I hate it. And at the end of the day, what we post on Facebook isn't going to change the world. And life is so gray. There's no black and white. I'm not going to, you can be fiscally conservative, socially liberal, fiscally liberal. There's all sorts of different varieties. And just to go black and white, I'm going to roll the dice, 50% shot, I'm going to offend somebody. That's not helping us out. That's not helping us as a group. And it's not a good practice to have in normal life. And religion can do that too, but not nearly as bad. And for someone to be listening to me say that, surely they've got to think like, well, you got to have an opinion. And of course I do. I have my own convictions, and I have my own red lines and stuff that I believe in. But part of it is, and I just want to share this so you have my background, so there's a little more validity on my opinion. But I grew up as a military brat. I lived on military bases for 16 years. I come from a family of Lutheran pastors, a very conservative environment. I wanted to be a scientist or engineer when I grew up. I was just kind of a science engineering nerd. But I got scholarships for freaking music, and I rolled the dice thinking I wanted to be a music teacher, and went to college for 7 years like an idiot, studying jazz piano. So I went from that environment to a very liberal environment. And jazz, it's focused very much on Black culture. When I left that after 7 years, I became a blue collar worker at managing a very busy and big funeral home and cemetery. And specifically, I was the maintenance superintendent. So I went back from that to Nebraska as a blue collar maintenance guy. And Nebraska's, I like Nebraska because there's a good blend of everybody. It's not like one thing or another. So it's kind of perfect for me. And within that, I worked with VFW groups and all sorts of stuff for Memorial Day programs and burying veterans and helping them. So, and now I've got an office job again. And in between that time, at the funeral home, I've been a white collar suit guy. So I've kind of just been all over the place when it comes to both those issues. I've got like a Jesus fish tattoo, but my ex-wife and my ex-girlfriend were militant atheists. So, some stuff is just very private to me, but I'm all over the place. When people ask me, like, what do I believe in? I always tell them I believe in rock and roll. I hate everybody. And I think that's what we all need to get to, because whenever we really get into the black and white in the paramotor community, nobody's going to have any fun. Nobody's going to laugh because of it. And then you're just going to harbor resentment against that person when that person could be your friend. And to be really honest with you, most of my personal friends are the exact opposite of like things I stand for. And the people I agree with on ideologies are people I don't get along with, just because I don't like their attitude and I don't like how they approach things. So go figure. My life doesn't make any sense. It's impossible for me to fit in and relate to anybody except for my fellow paramotor people. It's freaking awesome. But that is my one gripe. I am a firm believer when it comes to paramotors that we follow maritime law. Maritime law, or probably be more like maritime rules. Like when you're on a ship, a lot of times it's a bunch of people of a bunch of different nationalities and all sorts of stuff. And then you just realize, hey, it's just you guys looking out for each other. You got to put some stuff to the side. And overall, at fly-ins, gatherings, hanging out with people in person, it works out really good. There's very few issues. A lot of the problems stem from online. People need to get out. They need to socialize, talk to people in person. So that way you're in front of somebody and you care about them and you care about their reactions and whatnot. And if they say something that offends you, you might take a minute to step back and try to think about it rather than just going, bah. So that is like my number one pet peeve within the community. And when I first started, it was really bad, and now it's getting better. But that's also because I harassed the crap out of people that would do it. The only thing I got now is because I'm better known for whatever reason, people will friend the crap out of me on Facebook. And all of my Facebook is pretty much paramotors. Like maybe 50 people on it is non-paramotors. I don't have a life. I don't have friends. Well, I do. I have a band and stuff, but it's just all paramotors. So if you ever follow me, it's either something goofy where I'm just trying to make somebody laugh or be cheeky, or it's paramotor related stuff. You don't see me get opinionated, and I feel very strongly about certain things in life, and I wish I can go off on tangents and express them. But at the end of the day, you got to realize, is it going to get any real results? Are you going to change someone's mind? Are you really going to change someone's opinion that's the opposite of you? No. And so many of us, we're just regular people. We don't have social power to make that kind of change. So why would you just deny yourself opportunities to learn something from somebody else way different than you and potentially form a great friendship or relationship? Most of my best relationships are with people the exact opposite of me that hated me at first. It's something you just can't pass up. How are we doing in the chat? Do I need to address anything? I really need help. $24. Oh man, the anxiety is coming on. Better take a drink. Cheers, fools. The next thing, so something I know more than I should is about the businesses in paramotoring. And I kind of paid attention to it, and I know stuff about it because when I first started, I had a horrible experience with the school I was at. Essentially, my class got ghosted. I thought I was going to be out a ton of money. And that person was pretty high up on the USPPA at the time. And I started Paramotor World War III in 2021. And luckily, most people forgot about it. Some people still remember, and they see me in person. They're like, I didn't know how to react about that at the time. And trust me, I don't believe using Facebook or YouTube or stuff as a weapon. I think that sets a bad precedent. I come from a corporate background. Even when I was a cemetery superintendent, I was a regional trainer too. So I had to play things by the book. I'm trained to be that way and be HR clean. And a lot of that was calculated. I was like, hey, I know for sure there's an issue here. And I fought for myself without naming names and blasting somebody. But then I wanted to help somebody else who had gotten screwed out of $15,000. So then I just did World War III paramotor paradrama online. And eventually I got this guy's money back. And because of that experience, I've kind of paid attention to businesses and what are things that causes problems for us in the community in terms of when we go to rely on getting geared and whatnot. It used to be kind of bad. There were situations where somebody would try to buy a wing, get ghosted for 6 months. Like a wing. A wing shouldn't have that kind of delay. If you're out of stock, you're out of stock. You got to wait for, the whoever is in Europe to ship that over to you. You can't take somebody's money and I know why those things happen. I'm not going to just go out there because then I'll have to blast specific people. But when I kind of look at paramotor schools, the ones I like the most and I want to elevate the most are ones that they don't rely on it for their sole income, because their motivation is because they want to be there to teach and they're excited just to get people up in the sky. The ones that do rely on it for the sole income, there's some good ones out there. It's really hard to do because you got to be able to get along with your team and your business partners. And you can't run it like a corporate environment. And there's a couple out there. There's a couple that's their sole source of income, but they'll just do the right thing. If someone's based in Texas and they get a call from some guy in Illinois, they'll be like, hey, I know a school nearby that you're probably going to be better suited for, and you're going to want to buy your gear through them. Or hey, you might want to buy directly through us, but we're the importer. We're still going to give this dealer a commission. Buy through this guy. Like they'll just do the right thing. Like they've built their success on doing the right thing. So they have the reputation. Other professionals respect them for it. So then you got schools getting along with other schools. I've seen it because they'll do that flying, and they're always the guys partying together. And who you think would be competitors, they just work as a team. They'll just be like, they'll make sure, like if they get calls from new pilots or people buying gear, that they just do the right thing and send them to somebody closer or somebody more appropriate. And it's just not all about the money. Because I think if you're going to teach this, it should be about the joys of teaching it. I've worked in a corporate environment forever. And I think if you apply the business attitude, corporate attitude of like that human beings are just unreliable and you can't trust them, that makes for a horrible atmosphere. I want my instructors happy and inspired so that they can focus on me so I can enjoy my first flights, even though what we do is pretty easy and safe. And we could probably be trained on a monkey at the end of the day, but we still have to trust them and rely on them. And when people are given bad experiences, the attrition rate is so high as it is that we want to focus on setting up people for success, getting them well trained, and then making sure when they get home, they're sent to a good community. So I think when businesses are relying on that as a sole income, it's a touchy deal, because you'll have business partners there's a number of paramotor businesses that they have really ugly breakups, really ugly. Maybe you won't see that online, but what happens behind the scenes are awful. There are lawsuits and they jack with each other. And it's just like, man. And it makes me think, if I was ever invited or good enough to teach, like, I would have to be myself. I'd have to be like, you can delegate tasks to me, make me work my butt off, but you're letting me keep my voice. There's just no way. Oh, great. One of my roommates are in here. But at the end of the day, I meet certain people that they're just so excited and so motivated about just getting people up in the air and just building the community. You know, it's things about like money, image, and reputation. I hate those concepts. I've always have in every walk or every situation in life I've been in, is reputation and image. It's, if you just do the right thing and you're genuine and you're honest, if something weird happens, yeah, there might be a weird blow up, but I've never had that happen to me when I was just doing my best and I was trying to be genuine, but also be humble at the same time. And I don't know, I think that's why a lot of the experts in this, especially teachers and whatnot, you don't see them a lot on YouTube or Facebook and stuff, is because of this reason. So they end up kind of going corporate clean, or you don't hear from it at all. And I wish they would engage, because if you do it in a genuine way, you're going to be fine. People are going to be inspired to seek you out. I mean, some of the weird stuff I do, like, people have showed up near my area seeking train because they're like, hey, I heard you talking about this school. And it's like, after all the weird drag stuff. Last note on that is, it's basically community and mentorship when it comes to it. You just can't, if you drive across the country to get trained, you're still going to need that community mentorship to get home, or when you're at home. I've been sort of talking to people who consistently get those 25 flights at certain schools. There's certain schools where it's really dependent on the weather. You might go home at a flight or two, which is pretty tough, but I'm still trying to gauge if people who go and get their solid flights in those 2 or 3 weeks, if they still come home with like sort of the same anxieties and stuff I did. So, and there's even a figure of, you might hear, if you're familiar with the PPG community, there's a guy named I. Humley, and he talks a lot about self-training. And I like watched him a lot, and there's a pretty huge blowback on self-training. But I think he's pretty misunderstood in terms of, he's not like go out and get self-trained and save yourself a couple $1,000. He was a promoter at one point in time. And I'm just assuming this is just kind of what people talk to me about. You can't take this as Bible, but he's more of like mentorship. You have to have mentorship, and you have to have somebody with you quite a bit. And there's some people that can just go rocket solo. I've trained with a guy that came from my same school. He's been by himself in Missouri this whole time. He just rocks it, flies all the time, and didn't fly with somebody else until Endless Foot Track this year in September. So there's some people who can do that. Not a whole lot of us. I needed people. I needed a community. And so that's what he was about, is not so much, I mean, why would you pay somebody $3,000 and then bye, see you later, I'll never see you again? Are you ever going to help me or talk me or give me a call at night or help me with the parts? Like, we're so small. It's easy to keep up with us. This isn't, you know, put in the chat, how many active flyers do you think there are in this, that fly? Let's just say like once a month. My USPPA card is like 9,900 something as a number. But, you know, that was started 20 years ago. How many people do you think are actively flying now or going to get trained. It can't be that many where you can't give people that personal attention, you know, and really take ownership of them. Because there's a lot to weed through. Schools and trainers do get a lot of calls where it's like, I want to do this. And it's like, click, and you never hear from them again because they weren't serious. So you got to be able to filter through all that. But once somebody committed, they wanted it that bad, like you should be able to just take ownership of them and then they're yours and you're going to just make sure they succeed. I think that was my last thing about businesses. I am so glad I typed up notes for this. This would have been just utter garbage. It still is utter garbage. I get it. Holy crap, I got 26. Dang. I don't really deserve that. I don't know why I'm here. We got to talk to the experts. We need to get Santa Croce. Be like, look, dude, Hot Buttered Steve's talking on YouTube like he knows something. You need to get out there because the stuff's getting way too diluted. And it really is. It's gotten too diluted. So all the experts who have the best information, like if I want to find them, I have to call up my expert buddies and be like, who do I need to watch if I want to do this? Ooh. Okay, we got some numbers. Aaron, okay, when I said numbers of paramotor pilots that are active once a month, I mean just in the United States. So Aaron I says 15,000. Bill H says 2,000. I'm kind of thinking around the 2,000 number. 30,000 active, maybe 4. JR Paramotor, I'm retired. Yeah, I'd like to be retired. My guess is kind of 2,000. When I go to a major metropolitan area like Denver or Kansas City, and this is kind of a weird thing, like I'll learn about that there's a massive amount of flyers, like 60. That's a big number. And it's kind of weird because I'm all about community. My home crowd is all pretty together pretty well. And then I'll go to like Denver or Kansas City. It's like these people don't talk to each other. They're just in groups of like 2 or 3 or 5. I'm like, man, what the heck what are you guys not to? I don't know. I'm a little different when it comes to paramotor. I'm like freaking national. That's also because I'm an attention whore. So I don't know. Stan says 2,000. I'd really like to know. That's sort of my guess. And if you think about it compared to like skydivers, how many are there? Like 75,000 that are regularly jumping? We're such a small crowd. It's such a small town. Bad gas travels fast. And I don't know. It's just one of those weird things about the group that we're still, it's niche. We've come a long way. The gear's great. It's easy to fly, but we still have more work to do. I do have USPPN on my list to talk about, and I think they are improving things. So what was I'm always fascinated to talk about. Freaking hate talking. Like, I know it sounds like I like talking. I do vlogs, but that's a cell phone in a car and I can edit it. I like working as a team because I just sit back, drink, and then I crack my jokes, and then I got to run the whole time. And it looks like I'm pretty blush too. So I always love talking to people who have been doing this for a really long time or looking at what it was really like back in the day. It's kind of hard to get information on that, but I really like looking at the culture because it kind of used to be really wild, wild west. And to be able to do it, you had to have the time, money, and deal with the weight and the wings. So I mean, that was such a small niche deal, but what was born out of that was some weird personalities, of course, like Dell and stuff, but you had people that were just, man, it was just all about skill, and they didn't care about like how they were when they were on the ground. Like, man, this is the fastest slalom pilot in the world. It's so amazing. He could be a total jerk on the ground and screw over his customers, and people didn't care. And it was kind of a weird culture. And I've kind of seen that in my own life, like back when I was a music major, jazz was very competitive. People only valued you as a person based on how well you could play music. And I always bemoan that. For paramotoring, it's so easy to fly. I've flown with 12-year-olds, and there's a lot of teenagers who fly. We don't have to be athletic to do it. And so it's kind of weird at that time that people put more weight and valued a person based on what they were doing on the air compared to their integrity as a person. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I value people's integrity. But then you also had some good folks. You look at what Jeff Goin did in the midst of all sorts of strong personalities or weird people. This was a guy that went out and collected data like crazy, collected accident reports, writes books to this day. And he tells goofy dad jokes and doesn't take himself too seriously, but can write and speak in a very clear and serious way. And not only that, but if you kind of like look at what he promotes a lot is critical thinking. And that's what we kind of, I think, lack a lot as a community now when we're trying to relate to each other or just trying to assess what's our overall situation. Why are we so saturated with frames in the market when prices are so high? You know, competition's healthy, but like there's all sorts of weird nuances where if we really sat down and talked with each other, like somebody might say something, but they might write a big long book about it and we don't have patience to read it. Or someone else might just argue and it'll just disappear in the internet because maybe a person with a good idea thinks that they're just going to get trolled. But Jeff, I mean, he was pretty committed in just getting data, stuff that you couldn't just like say online like it was fact. He's like, I've studied this. I understand it. And he really just believed in critical thinking with things. And he kind of stayed out of drama and politics, even though some people hounded him for just being him. And so I always love talking to old folks. I've talked to even Alex Donaghy. I bumped into him. He was the vice president of the USPPA for a long time. And just learning, like, people give the USPPA grief like they're just useless and what they contributed. It's like, this was so niche and it was so new when it was evolving. You had to start somewhere, but you couldn't solve all the problems. He started it trying to share that knowledge and data and help people. But on the other side of things, you have the human element. Who's going to execute this? Who's going to sell the stuff? And who's going to teach? When you add the human element in, that's when we add in the hot mess if we don't have accountability. Well, the USPPA, like when it started, wasn't meant to. They can't police business practices. They tried to do that, they could very well get sued. And that was sort of a misconception with me is, you know, they were more of, you know, they wanted the data out there, but if they were going to rubber stamp you as a USPPA instructor, you had to follow standards. So when they received complaints about training quality, like, man, this guy just told me to inflate my wing, power, maybe that instructor would get a call and be like, hey, are you following a syllabus over there? But they couldn't hold accountability on business practices if somebody was getting scammed or whatnot. And that took me a while to kind of figure out. Like, read stuff, and I've already talked about these things. We're already at 7:45. Man, I can really run my mouth. So why are we here tonight, though? Before I like dump into anything else. So I'm going to name names. I'm going to talk some shit, but I'm only going to do it for 2 minutes because it's all chicken shit. This is the stupidest stuff ever. But we've got these live shows we do, right? We've got a Monday one with Sean Simons, Tuesday that Eric Leary used to run. Now it's, Shane Robbins and Will Fly and Mark. And you got Jade Show that started out with like trying to give a voice to women paramotor pilots. And now we just try to include everybody. And I'm a big proponent of the show because it's not just a bunch of PPG people. Just, I know this ain't appropriate, but sometimes that's what's going on. We're just running our mouths and we're not helping somebody. And with her show, I like, and Sean's pretty good about doing this too, but getting somebody on and just giving them a floor. We get to learn their story. And I like having a balance of where it's not just experts, but just get your average person who's like active, because we're eventually going to meet them. And if I'm a beginner watching the show, I want to watch somebody and listen to somebody I can relate to. I like that. I like the beginners that be like, oh, that person's a hot mess and they're struggling and they suck. And so do I. I like it. I got to have it. And then you have Thursdays with Robert Michaels, and his tends to be super legit because he gets super experts on. He just had one of the wing test pilots on. And how often do we get to hear from people who test out wings and people who design them? Like, that's awesome things to listen to. Maybe it won't benefit you immediately, but if you're in this for the long term, you're eventually going to want to just kind of know, like if somebody's out there testing a wing, that they're actually up there like adjusting lines, or, what they're doing. And then one of the best ways how I like learned about the community was, David Wolf started our Paramotor Nation. Actually, he didn't start it, but he did that for a long time. So when I went out traveling, I knew who all these big people were. And so I'd just go up to him and fly and be like, hey, I'm Steve, and just harass the crap out of him. It was a great tool for me. But even before David, there's like some lady named like Phoenix Rising or something, her handle, that she kind of started this for a while. And she's just not on very often. But we have all these shows. And essentially back in May, I'm just going to tell it like how it is. Like, this isn't hearsay. I've seen the actual communication. What the heck? I've seen the communication that's gone on. So this isn't something I'm just assuming. So I'm just going to call people out because this is some bullshit. How many people are watching? 23. So when shows go on, there's a pre-show Zoom call where you're just testing out audio or whatnot. And I guess some shows it is a lot longer than others. And it's just time to test out audio, chat, whatever. On Jade's, it's pretty short and sweet. In others, it's pretty long. One of the long ones that Will Fly was a part of, there was a person on that was talking about their first flight experience that they just had. So they were super excited about it and just wanted to share the feeling and the joy. That, I mean, this person, it just like made their entire year that they got their first flight. So Will Fly shows up, and he's a YouTuber, and this person kept talking and talking and talking, and I guess there's an etiquette with Will Fly that you got to introduce him like he's freaking royalty. You always got to ask what's his YouTube channel and all this other crap, but who freaking cares? Well, anywho, this person kept talking and talking, so nobody had a chance to say, hey, Will Fly is here. And he got so mad about that he defriended the Lears, and that was it. Like, that's what this is all about. I'm gonna take a drink. And so anywho, Will Flies, after kind of all that, Eric Lear, who is running the Tuesday show, which is sad. Eric Lear is a guy that's, he's not like me at all. He's no BS. He's all about talking paramotors and everything about it. And he's more on like technical sides. Like, I just 3D screen printed. He's always tinkering. He just became an instructor. He's a legit guy. He's a nice guy too. But if you just want no BS knowledge and communication, it's your guy to go to. And after dealing with that, he's like, I'm done hanging out with you people. And so he just handed it over. So Will Fly, Shane Robbins took it over. So they decided that they were so mad about the incident that they'll just do petty stuff like click subscribe on Jade's YouTube and unsubscribe, so she sees those notifications every day. And then they'll just talk shit on their show and make snarky comments and talk in the chat. And this doesn't mean anything. This is all just chicken shit. Like, this whole time I've been like, just ignore it. Ignore it. Who cares? Nobody cares about these people. Don't let it bother you. But I also come from a different background. Like, you know, I'm kind of connected nationally. So I know some other people are friends and community are a little more tight knit, smaller. So it's a little easier for me to say, like, who cares? Anywho, I guess Shane at one point in time got his administrative wrench taken away off of Jade's show. So if you're looking at Super Chat, those blue wrenches, those are moderator wrenches. They essentially allow us to filter out people who are cussing, saying dirty things, or spam. And so Shane's got taken away, but I don't even remember him being active and watching the show or the chat or anything. And he got really mad about it. So the harassment just continued. So this all started last May. It's just whatever. And finally, you know, I've had to hear this from Jade all the time. Like, why are these people just picking on me? And it pisses me off because Jade, like, women get just shit on the community. There's just a bunch of dirty ass guys. If you get a pretty gal up, like, all sorts of lewd, weird stuff just comes up. And so you never really hear from a lot of women in PPG in terms, go to YouTube and show me, like, you know, someone that's got a massive amount of subscribers and is super popular. That's a woman. You know, you got some people that are big voices like Leah Catullo and stuff, but that are really out there on social media or YouTube. And there's not a lot because the guys suck. And Jade has been a person where she started where all of a sudden girls get to tell their story. They get the floor and no guy gets to interrupt them. And it's such a beautiful thing. Why do we need to pick on this gal? Like, she's not mean. She invited me to join her show, and I'm a hot mess. Like, if Jade was dramatic and she was difficult to deal with, I wouldn't do it. Like, I don't know why she was getting picked on. So eventually I got kind of tired of hearing the complaints. So I told her last week, I was like, why don't we do a test broadcast on Tuesday while there's shows going on? We'll do it under the guys that were testing out the filter. So yeah, I was a little nefarious about it. And we did it. Had a great show, actually. Some people stopped on and it was fun. Then after that, Shane made, I'm going to broadcast this one so you can see it. I hope you guys are having fun. I haven't been looking at the chat at all. 27, that ain't bad. But there's a picture of me as a woman. There's a picture of me as a woman. This bourbon's starting to hit me. There we go. Why? There we go. So this was something that Shane made for his channel that he posted for YouTube. And then he decided to go all over the internet and share this link. So the Lears were never contacted. They're never reached out to. It's like, what the hell is this? If you had marital problems, you go to your like spouse and be like, hey, we're having problems. I scheduled a live YouTube show and we can hash it out together. Like, are you for real? And so not only did he post that on all the Facebook groups, his link to his live show. But he did it to things like Kyle O'Glee's personal wall. Will Fly did that. He posted that to Kyle O'Glee's personal wall and the USPPA, which Eric works for. And I kept yelling at Shane. He's like, I'm just trying to work things out and be positive. And Will's like, matters to the community. It's like, nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about any of us. Why? Some guy in Washington flying a paramotor, is he going to see this and be like, man, this really changed my flying experience. I didn't blow that last launch because I watched this bullshit. I mean, that's just how, yeah, fuck it. We'll do it live. It's so stupid. I've done this before. I've weaponized this, but I went after somebody I accused of fraud, like criminal behavior, like not schoolyard drama. And so that's why I'm doing this tonight. I essentially wanted to broadcast at the same time as them, annoy them, and but I didn't want to just sit here and like talk about that like the entire time, because that would just be silly. People would get pissed off, and this wouldn't be relevant at all. I don't think I'm missing anything with that. Can we move on? Is it time for a smoke break? I'm at 8 o'clock. I made it through like an entire hour. I think I've got, how many more things in my notes? I've got more things. I could probably blast through them, but I'm going to need a cigarette break because this is like really hard to do solo. I'm going to suck a cigarette down 2 minutes. I'm going to be back. I'm going to run my mouth. Got it? Yeah.
Do you want to experience flight in its purest and most exciting form? If so, paramotoring is for you. Your flying adventures begin here at Cache Valley Paramotor, where they will train you on everything you need to know about the safest and most affordable form of flight. All of their instructors are USPPA certified with over 30 years combined experience flying in locations all over North America. They're also dealers for all of the top-of-the-line paragliding and paramotor equipment and can cater to your every need. Their instructors are well-versed in both paragliding and paramotor skill set. This, along with the unique training environment that Cache Valley provides, allows them to teach students the necessary skills to fly in diverse locations all over the world. Reach out to Cache Valley Paramotor at cachevalleyppg.com.
Did I lose everybody? Told you that'd be short. I value your time. You're paying me top dollar for this, damn it. I really hate rambling by myself. Look, if you ever meet me in person and you haven't met me yet, Bush. I actually do. I actually hate talking a lot. Like, I know it sounds counterintuitive because I have like videos where I'm vlogging and stuff. Like, if you meet Kyle O in person, he's exactly like he is in his videos. He's going to talk and entertain you. Me, I don't like doing that. I like being a part of a team like Jade's show, where I like to listen. I like to listen 90% of the time and talk 10% of the time. And 5% of that is going to be jokes. And then if I got something serious to say, I want to keep it short and simple with brevity, because I'm not one of those people that I want to say something and then make you agree with me. Like, if you ever go to a business conference, like, people always punctuate their sentences with right. Like, yeah, you got to check your records and stuff like this, right? And you got to make sure when you inflate your wing, right? And then when you land, right? And freaking annoys me. I don't like doing that. It's like, no, I want you to form your own opinion. And for me, just to freaking babble for an hour straight just makes me feel like a jackass. But I didn't want to waste people's time tonight. And I want to blast through my last things because I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do it. If I have to keep trolling Shane and Will Fly, I'm going to do it in other cruel methods. So I shouldn't be on doing this kind of stuff at all. The experts should be. And there's plenty of experts out there on YouTube or whatnot, but I think they need to engage the community a lot more. There's not a whole lot of us. It's easy to keep up with us. If Brad Roper can do it and then sell wings and motors all across the country, you can too. But I know of so many experts where you got to find them. And I get why. One, there's community drama. And the other thing is if you want to do this kind of stuff so bad, and this applies maybe more to the paragliding world, that you go seek out those monasteries and you find those right people if you really want that bad. So that way, when they're contacted, they know that you're serious. Seriously, somebody like Sam Crutchley should be doing live shows like this. Like, we shouldn't. I mean, it's nice having a basic beginner community, and I think we got a healthy one kind of going on, but we need the experts to pipe in too. And why haven't we fixed the basics yet? So we always see the questions all the time of people looking to get into this, and they're posting. I was afraid to post. I was afraid to ask questions. I did all my own research at the beginning, and for me, it was picking the right school, but I bought my gear before I trained. That was my biggest problem. And like, I don't know why there isn't like a default like template on the paramotor groups. They got one on Reddit. I'm pretty sure Woody's gamer tag is the one that wrote it, where it just like has bullet points. Like, if you want to do this, don't buy your gear first. Go to a school. The gear doesn't matter. They'll all get you up in the air. 90% of the gear, they all function the same. A and B wings, you're not going to know. It's like if I wanted to start a saxophone and playing it, between getting a Yamaha cheap one for $800 versus a Selmer Series 3 for $3,000. If I suck at playing the saxophone, it ain't going to make me sound any better. Like, they're all safe. You know, just putting out a template for new people that are like, look, it's hard to find the definitive answers, but this is what, as a community, we have to tell you, that if you want to do this, we need to locate you the proper school. Do not worry about gear. Do not research training methods prior. Just commit and be prepared to work. Like, go do mile runs every other day. Get your cardio in so you're ready to give it all you got. We all need to sit down and just like get that everywhere, just to help people. Next up, I got ego. There's a lot of egomaniacs out there. I'm one of them. The problem is what we do is actually pretty easy. It's just scary, especially when you're a middle-aged man like me. You get anxiety and fears and all sorts of stuff. But like I said, I've flown with a 12-year-old. Now, granted, that 12-year-old, he studied with an expert, probably kited for like 6 months, 9 months. His mom flies. And if you watch his videos, he's up there like, hey, I'm going to do a review on these Smarties I brought with me and which ones are my favorite. Oh, by the way, my kill switch died, so apologize for the engine. Then he does this review of eating Smarties. And then he goes and whips some shitties and barrel rolls like it's nothing. That's a 12-year-old. There's a lot of teenagers that fly. So if it's sort of that simple and that benign, why do we need to have egos over what we do? And there's actually a couple different reasons. Part of a disconnect we have within the community is there is an enthusiast culture. There is nothing wrong with enthusiasts that just want to push the limits, whether it's always tweaking with gear, making things better, lighter, smaller, and then what you're doing up in the air. If you look at all the acro moves and whipping shitties, but Misty, I've had acro guys talk to me about all the moves, and I stopped them. I was like, are we talking about skateboarding or are we talking about paramotoring? Because they got all these things, but you can enjoy paramotoring and be pretty decent at it. It doesn't mean you have to do those things. And if you do those things, it doesn't make you a better human. Like it's, and I think sometimes there's a disconnect between enthusiasts and the people that come on and just start talking about how they're so excited to fly. And I think it's probably the responsibility of the enthusiast to be a little bit more open-minded and welcoming, to be like, hey, congratulations, and be a little bit more humble about what they do and celebrate the joy this person has gotten to be able to fly, and to encourage them to keep enjoying it and not be afraid of it. So you do have enthusiast cultures everywhere. I mean, if you love freaking football and you played football in high school, you know, yeah, maybe you made it to a college team, but even then there's still a big difference between that and getting into an NFL draft. And you don't have to be extraordinary to be valued as a person in what we do. You just have to like it and respect it. Because if you like it and respect it, and if you work at it, you're going to be able to fly just fine. You're going to be able to take off just fine, land just fine. We're not extreme sport athletes. So there's no sense in having a big ego in whatever we do. And we all come from different walks of life. Yeah. I just burnt my tongue. So you have the enthusiasts, you have pharmacists, doctors, you have personalities like engineers. I don't know if you ever worked with an engineer before, but I have, and they have absolutely no social skills. There's a reason why they have mediators, like people who communicate to the engineer and then talk to the customer, because engineers are really rude. They'll focus on semantics. And I think that's part of the problem with online community, is like you get a lot of people that we're not socializing with people in person. You gotta care about your fellow human being. Maybe you're really passionate about science and technology and stuff, and I've been that way too. I've been super focused on knowledge, but I've always had a drive within myself to understand another human being and kind of combine those two things. And you got those people that walk into it. You have a lot of blue collar mechanics, a lot of people who grew up doing dirt bikes. You rebuild engines, cars. Me, I suck at mechanics. I used to be a maintenance superintendent running a backhoe all the time. And I'd be like, hey guys, can you grab me that jobby do? And they're like, the Phillips head screwdriver, Steve? And you're like, yeah, that. Like, I'm an idiot. You get software engineers. You get the average Joes. So for a long time, with anything in aviation, beyond a drive and a want to do it, you have to have time and money. And within our society, like, you can work your butt off and not get paid what you're worth, sadly enough. And it really sucks. I wish it was more accessible to people. But you got your average Joes where, hey, once you buy your wing and your motor, you're done. And I think that kind of affects like how our average people communicate, because we spend our savings and we did this, and to get up and fly, it makes it much more joyous, because it's not like we think in the back of our mind, hey, if I break something, I can just afford something new. Or if I get injured, I can afford my medical bills, or I can afford to travel. And so we should always be grateful for like the things that we have. I've been able to travel across the country, and I do it on a bare bones budget. And I also do it because I got friends that help me along the way. I can hop in someone's RV, split the cost. Not everybody has that opportunity. I've been kind of lucky. But you have all these different people of different walks of life, so they have different perspectives. They're going to communicate differently. And we all just have to realize that, you know, if somebody's just getting into this and they're flying alone or whatnot, and they're sharing videos and maybe you're not into it, it's like, you edit that right or make something that I'm interested in. Hey, you got to stop and learn where they come from. This doesn't all have to be about glam and fireworks, whipping shitties and being the best. It's more just promoting the sport and promoting everybody that does it. And eventually people are going to argue. And when people argue, their problem mostly is they take themselves too seriously. Like, is it really necessary to win an argument? To have someone concede and lay down their sword? Because if you're arguing with a really strong personality or someone that's super passionate, like, are you going to debate them well enough to be able to actually do that with just like facts? Like, it's not going to happen. Like, if you want to win somebody over, you got to win their hearts and mind. Maybe their private parts. Who knows? Maybe that's why I dress and drag. But you got to value somebody as a person in order to win them over. You got to be able to gain their respect. Even if they don't deserve it, you got to gain their respect. Because if you don't have their respect, they're not going to listen to you. And I think people just want to they just want to win. They want to be winners. I'm a predator. I got to win and I got to dominate. And there's just no upward benefit to that. Like, I don't want to be a guy that just lives my life and dies that says, like, I demolished and I won and I beat everybody. And I'm freaking hated and nobody's going to attend my funeral. Like, it's kind of dumb. That's why I like, whenever I look at history, I'm a big history reader. So, you know, people put people on pedestals. That's our biggest problem. You look at this sport. If you look at the people who do it well, the biggest YouTubers and whatnot, the last thing you should ever do, and I'll tell you that's out of personal experience because I've met them, is don't put anybody on a pedestal, because everybody's got issues. And I mean, chances are for a normal person, you might actually be better than them, like, or more normal, or have value. You need to have value in yourself is what I'm saying. I'm really bad about putting everybody in my life on a pedestal. That's why I suck at dating. But people take themselves way too seriously. And so when they argue, it just becomes more about them rather than trying to help somebody or change their mind. Because if you honestly care about somebody and want to change their mind, you're going to talk to them in a very careful manner, in a language that they can understand. You can't just do it in yours. You got to break out of your comfort zone and talk to them. And part of the problem with so many of us is we're attention whores. But it's hard not to be, because what we do is so fun. Like, if you go flying with people, like when you land, I'm up to 31, that increased. When you land and you're flying with people or taking off and stuff, you're talking on the ground. You're like, man, did you catch my takeoff? Oh, I want to see my landing. Hey, can you send that over to me? And if they didn't send it to you in like the next 2 hours, like when you're getting ready for bed, hey man, upload that. I got to see it. It's fun to watch. We love it to be able to look at yourself and you're like, I'm doing this. And even if it's benign, like I've buried this down where it's like 12-year-olds can do it. You know, people can take their first flights in 3 days at training if the weather's good. But it's still this amazing concept of you just get to fly like a bird on bed strings and go above the clouds and just kick treetops. And all this. Of course, you're going to want it. And then you're going to want to share it. And it's way too easy to be an intention whore. And I think we should give forgiveness for the people that are just starting that broadcast everywhere. It's fine. But there's people who've been doing it for a while, like Will Fly, that then it becomes more of, I deserve respect. I'm somebody different and special because I do this, or I edit videos. And I'll tell you what, I'm the biggest loser of the paramotor community. And whenever I go places, I always have to explain to people how much I suck, because they're like, oh, you're Steve. It's like, you don't realize I have the ability to edit on a computer. And even though I do share my crashes and all my mistakes and stuff, I make stuff look pretty. And that's just not how reality is. Like 90% of my reality is I'm depressed, I'm anxious, the sky's gray, and I'm miserable. And then I'll go do this amazing thing. It's like, wow, this just changed me. I'm going to just condense it down to 2 minutes and share it. But never want to demand respect from somebody just because I do this. Because out in the real world, people do not care if you paramotor. Adults have like a 30-second attention span if you paramotor. Kids think you're a superhero for a little bit. And that's why I love landing in front of crowds with kids, because then you're like slapping hands and high five, and they make you feel like a superhero. But paramotors, they do not have sex appeal. Either that, I'm just ugly and I'm wrong. But just nobody cares. And it's sad. I wish they would. I wish that it did make me a more valuable person, that people would want to pay attention to me. But the sad reality is it's not true. And within our community and stuff, like what we do and how we do it up in the air doesn't make somebody a better person either. And I kind of learned that lesson early on because I was so afraid of flying, had anxiety and stuff. I kited a lot. So I had sort of my basics really dialed down. And then I would go fly with people who were whipping shitties, like doing barrel rolls and all that stuff in the air. But then I'd look and be like, holy crap, this person cannot launch worth a shit. Like their launches are freaking scary. And then I was like, oh, I can launch very well. Okay. It's just when I'm at a point of weakness and I'm struggling and I've got mental things, because somebody else can show off and demonstrate, but yet struggle with something basic, kind of helped me and build confidence. And these weren't just random people. They were my friends I cared about. But it's just not a competition. It's really not. If you want to take it to an enthusiast level where you demonstrate finesse and stuff, like that should be in a way where you show it off as more of an art piece for people to appreciate, understand, and learn, and something to aspire to. But it doesn't make you a better person at all. And so a lot of times I don't understand between that and popularity, especially with either social media or YouTube's subscribers. You look at Judson Graham, look at his subscriber count. Should be way bigger. But if there's only 2,000 active flyers and stuff, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your subscription count. I thought my stuff was absolutely stupid. So I've got like 353 subs now. And when I started, it was like 200. And all I was doing was kiting and telling jokes and being an idiot and bleeping out my swear words with cuss words. And then went to my first fly-in. And people were like, hey, you're Steve. I'm like, what the hell? People recognize me? And then I realized that if I had, 100, 200 viewers, it wasn't random people off the internet. Those were PBG flyers. Those were the people that mattered. That's incredible. Like, to me, like if I created things and 20 of the people I cared about the most in my life were sucked into them or meant something to them, that's a huge deal. So why would I care about having thousands of subscribers or views and stuff when there's only like 2,000 of us and nobody in the real world really cares about it? So it's all a lovely joke because we have this amazing tool to go and fly like a bird. But then we have that restriction that if we want to be a center of attention, if we want to pretend like we're better than someone else, that the world's going to be like, no, you're not. Screw you. It's freaking beautiful. And that's when it comes down to arguing, is we need to all realize that if you want to get really heated about something, get heated about safety or schools and fraud and quality of that. Like, make it important. It's not about you. It's not about your reputation. And most importantly, it's not about you. Never make it about you. And that's what we're so bad with. Share the experience, make yourself vulnerable to other people. Which leads me to YouTubers. I bumped into people that are like, can't stand YouTubers and whatnot. And they look at me and I'm like, do I even really qualify as a YouTuber? Because I don't have that much and I don't broadcast as much as I used to. But those people inspire us to get into this because they normalize it. We get to live vicariously through them. And it's a good thing they did. Like, I probably wouldn't be doing this if I didn't find Tucker Gott. You know, I was following Trent Palmer, a bush plane pilot. And then that bumps into Tucker where you're, at that point in time, I didn't have any life. I still don't. That's why I'm here. I don't have a life. I'm divorced. I live with two strange women in this house. And yeah, I've got a job and I got a band and stuff. My life ain't something to bitch about. But I got too much free time. So I'm always harassing people online doing this. But you look at the YouTubers like Tucker, that they're normal people that put something out that were able to normalize it, and then it got popular because they normalized it. It wasn't because they were fancy about it or whatever. They just edited it well to adjust to our attention spans. We all have very low attention spans. But so many YouTubers in us, we fall into that trap of what's in it for me, when there's only like 2,000 of us. And some of them can just kind of get ungracious. I was following stuff in the threads today about somebody missing somebody and why they just kind of ditched everybody. And it's like, these people who make these things, they're no different than you and I. They're just normal people. And maybe somebody who's insanely popular isn't really weird, loud, and gregarious, and they shouldn't have to be. And it can kind of frustrate some people at fly-ins and stuff because they're not approachable, or they seem like they're in cliques. And I disagree with their mentalities because there's so few of us. It's not like you're just getting swarmed by a bunch of rock and roll fans asking for autographs and taking up your entire day. You're going to get a few people that just come up to you and be excited. And I like Kyle O because Kyle O's very popular, and I've seen him at multiple fly-ins now, and people just bum rush him like rabid dogs. And he'll still be happy to stop and talk and give him the Kyle O experience and then just mosey on his way rather than like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with the clique. So I don't know. You got to take that into consideration, that people who make the videos that you watch the most, they have the power of editing. Editing allows you to polish a turd and you're not getting reality out of it. It just all depends on that individual of how open and gregarious they're really going to be. And then you got the YouTubers who do the live shows, which are at the bottom of the barrel. You're looking at like millions of views and subs on the other ones. And then you look at the live shows, and even the most popular one, what's it going to have? Like 80 viewers in a night. That's how small we are. So do numbers really count? And so for even us that do live ones, should we ever take ourselves too seriously? Like Will Fly and Shane Robbins. No, because it's like 20 people watching. Who cares? This is just a small family clique that'll watch. We don't want that. We want people to come in, people who are new that feel like they have a family and friends and learn about other people. But I keep saying over and over, I've said it to my instructor a lot, but I really wish for a day where I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to edit YouTube, to post on Facebook all the time, because that's going to be a time in my life where I'm happy. So I'm going to be busy. I'm going to have stuff that's going to give me satisfaction. I'm not going to be too bored to be doing this stuff. Pass it on to someone else. And so why do we need to make a big deal about our image and reputation? This is so serious. We're live show YouTubers. It's like, no, we're just people. Get over yourselves. My last one was on USPPA, which I already talked about that. I was rambling so much I actually got into it. The last thing I had about USPPA is people always ask, like, why don't they show up at fly-ins to be more relevant? And the thing is that fly-ins, how many new people or people who aren't flying like show up there, and that would massively impact. I mean, there's certain fly-ins I'll talk to manufacturers or importers. I'm like, they'll be telling me their schedule. I'm like, is it really necessary to show up to this one? Is anyone really going to be convinced to buy your, that's more of an image thing or whatnot. The USPPA should be more focused on training standards and the information promotion, because when you go to fly-ins, you already have seasoned people that already made up their minds on their opinions, what they're doing, what they're flying, how they're doing it. And the last thing I had is I had a note here of like why the hell I'm accepted in this community. And I know why I am, but I can't accept it. Because I looked at this community and I was like, this is a steaming hot piece of shit when I first got into it. And I shouldn't be surprised that I could get into it being weird, but well-intentioned and make friends, because I saw how much people fought and the egos and bringing stuff in that didn't matter. I don't know. I get it. I can't accept it when people accept me. It's freaking weird. And I can't believe it's 8:30 and 25 people are watching. I think I'm really at the end of my shtick. So just as a reminder, this whole thing, this ain't going to be a regular thing. I'm not going to broadcast. I can't talk this much all the time. I can't believe David Ruff used to get on After Dark on Wednesdays and just go solo. Just like, look how red my face is. It's not because I'm drunk. But I'm not doing it because of that. Just as a reminder, I'm doing this because Will Fly and Shane Robbins suck. They're attention whores. They think they deserve respect. And they're freaking man-childs that need accountability and to socialize a little bit more. Like, just picking on a girl like every other paramotor pilot does, which is the reason why girls don't get involved in the online communities. And so I'm just trying to troll them. That's why this exists, is I'm trying to piss them off. I'll probably succeed. So, yeah, Copay J, get drunk next time. Sorry, chatters, that if I didn't interact with you, it's really, really hard to like provide constant whatever in this entertainment platform and be able to look at you at the same time. I've watched too many of these things where I'm like, I know how it's presented. So I really, really hope that whatever I said, somebody thought it was of value. And if you think I'm horribly wrong on something I said, let me know and I'll get it corrected. Like, I take criticism and judgment pretty well. But I really think I'm at the end of my spiel. I'm tired and I'm not drunk enough. So I'm going to post a link for an after show, because I'll get drunk with my friends if they want me to. I'm going to post a link in the chat. There is a limit of how many people I can get on. I still have 26. Okay, that's like impressive for me. Give me just a second here. I can put the link in. If you want to come on, I'm going to leave up the after show for a while. So you could talk with each other or talk to me. I don't care. I wish I would have done a spinning wheel, but I didn't have any help. I asked for help. Asked for help from Josh Perry, but he didn't want to do it. And then Jade is sick, and so I wouldn't have time to like type names in a spinning wheel and still try to entertain you. But I don't know. I hope this was good. I didn't waste all you guys' freaking time. And if I did, I'm not sorry. Y'all can go fuck off. Yeah. All right. If I don't see you in there, I'll see you on there. Hop on.